What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 399 of Opinions May Vary. I am your host, JR. I have my co-host with me, Alex.
Hi.
Fresh off his trip from the Windy City.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know if I'm talking about you or our guest, because I already said hi to you. But anyways, Alex went to Chicago. We'll talk about that probably soon. Another day, because we do have a very loaded episode today. We are joined by one of our bestest friends in the entire world. I was going to say Mr. Joe. It's Joe.
I did not go to Chicago.
Joe did not go to Chicago.
No.
Joe went to Boston with me and Colin and our friend Kevin and Bob. Bob has been on the show before. Kevin's never been on the show. Maybe someday. I had a great time. But anyways, we went to Boston, not this past weekend before that, for PAX East 2020. We're a little late with this because your boy got sick. I caught the PAX Pox, despite the fact that I was slathering my hands in hand sanitizer.
You and everyone.
Yeah.
You saved me.
When I was buying it, because I wanted to get one of those like little dangly dudes so I could attach it to my backpack. Mm-hmm. When I was buying it at Target, this is before the panic hit that's happening right now. Mm-hmm. They had a bunch of them, and I got a pink one, and my wife was like, maybe you should get two. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to go through all this hand sanitizer. Are you crazy? And then halfway through the first day at PAX, I was like, I should have got two. I didn't go through it all. Mm-hmm. But like the clip that I was going, like the veracity that I was applying this hand sanitizer with, I don't think I'm using correct vocabulary.
It's not even like the disease part of things that are going on right now. It's just like you pick up a controller and put it down and go, God, I really should clean my hands.
Yeah.
And now that you have an avenue to do it. Yeah.
It helped a lot.
Oh, yeah. I bring wipes or sanitizer with me to flea markets.
Yep.
And tag sales.
That's smart.
And then I walk around just like going like this the rest of the day when I don't have anything. And
He's wringing his hands.
I consciously don't. Yeah, like.
Oh no!
That's an audio adventure for everybody.
So I did manage to get the pox. I got a nice little tasty head cold that I woke up to on Monday morning, and I'm over it now. It's done. I'm pretty sure I don't have coronavirus, at least not yet. And we're moving on. We're going through. We went to PAX 2020. This was it was my 6th. I think the first time we went was 2014. Let me check the patches on my bag.
The first one you went to was 2014 because I gave you those tickets.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I couldn't go to them because I was in a show that happened in 2014.
Yep.
So, yeah.
The good old days.
That was your first one too, right?
Yes.
Alex?
Did I go to that one?
Yes, you did. It was you and me. We bumped into like Kyla and Vela and, and all
Friday
that.
night, yeah.
We couldn't find lanyards for our badges because we had no idea. It was the first time ever in the BCEC, so we had no idea where we were, what was going on. So that was a fun adventure. But 2020 happened. We are
seasoned pros.
Seasoned veterans.
So 2020, that's 7 for you. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Damn. Plus 2 unplugs, plus PAX South. It was my 10th ever, I think.
Damn.
Is that what it was? Or 9th? It doesn't matter.
It's a lot.
So I'm going to say for the 18th time, PAX 2020 happened, and we are here to talk about it because we did a lot. We went Thursday, Friday. Oh, man, the meta. I feel like I'm giving away secrets because Thursday, man, if y'all aren't going on Thursday.
Thursday's the time.
It is so choice. Mm-hmm. It is unbelievable how good Thursday is and significantly different from any other day. But we're going to start. We got kind of like a schedule here. We're mixing it up a little bit because we played a lot of things. Now, in the past, we've kind of talked at length about particular games, and then we end up kind of killing ourselves on time, so then we kind of fly through stuff. Mm-hmm. I've said kind of about 18 times in the past minute. But we fly through stuff and we say, oh, this game was cool. It was made by these people. Check it out. This game was cool. It had this cool mechanic, and we fly through it. It doesn't give proper credence to the game or the attention that it deserves. So we're going to kind of stick to, I said kind of again, we're going to stick to the best ofs, not necessarily best ofs, because that's not even accurate.
Highlights.
Yeah, highlights, and then things that warrant maybe more than a couple seconds of this was also cool. You can check out our website, omvpodcast.com, for an extended write-up, essentially. It's not just going to be me blabbering about how much I loved PAX.
It's going to be like a deep dive.
It'll be a deep dive into more games, more stuff that we couldn't necessarily cover on here because this episode's probably already going to run over, and we're still not going to have enough time to talk about all the things we did because we did a lot of stuff, especially Joe. Holy shit, Joe. How do you do this
I had a PAX.
every year? Even when you showed up today, you busted out 2 games that I didn't even know you got.
I had a PAX.
Yeah. Yep. Joe PAX is hard. It's hard to beat.
This is the best thing. So we go with my buddy Kevin, great guy. He's been with us this is his 3rd year doing PAX with the team. And Kevin pushes me because Kevin knows he's got a time limit. And like where some people will be like, oh, I might come in a little bit later. Kevin's like, no, I'm showing up on the day.
Yeah.
I'm hitting the floor and I've got work to do. And so Kevin really pushes me to explore and to find things and to like really make the most of those 2 days because it's easy to get tired. Like I've got a limit, like a convention limit, and it'll be one of those where I'll be like, I'm gonna sit down and I want to open up the box of the thing I got, and I'll be like, hey, do you mind if I just take 10 minutes? And Kevin will be like, yeah, 10 minutes, no problem. I didn't mean 10 minutes when I said 10 minutes.
Like a half hour.
Yeah, it was a lazy one, like maybe play on my phone for a bit, but he pushes you back out there in a very nice way.
Well, that's wasted time otherwise.
Wasted time. And that is because you always feel at the end of the day like, oh my God, is today really already over? Like it's already 5:30. The floor is going to close in a half hour. Like, ugh.
There's still so much to do, but the floor closing nixes a lot of it.
And
you know, like
you gave me a gift. So Thursday is the most brilliant day, and JR graciously offered media hour to me for my experience of wandering through Thursday. So it felt especially long in like the most positive, engaging way possible. Like I was really, really excited about that because it meant I got to tackle some booths that I know would have had a terrible line. They had a huge line for the rest of the weekend for me. So I got to do, I just wandered into the Shovel Knight booth where I'm like, hey, these people just dropped King of Cards, like the final expansion section of the original Shovel Knight game that came out in 2014.
Wow.
And it becomes this like, so what are they going to do? Because they've spent the last 5 years, like releasing these games. And what are you going to do? And they had not 1, but 2 new Shovel Knight games. And I was like, oh, neither of these were on my radar. Did you wander by the booth for either of these or see any?
I never got to play them, but I saw the booth from a distance
and they
because
had
it was
crazy
packed.
lines. They just constantly. And so they had 2 different games that they were pushing out. And so one of them was like a puzzle game. Like, have you ever played like Pocket Puzzle League or Tetris Attack? Like those style
you related
of
it
games?
to Dr. Mario.
Yeah.
Which
very
kind of triggered it for me.
Incredibly apt. And so it is one of those like standard Tetris sort of games where like things are dropping, and it is, you are Shovel Knight, you're the little blue dude, and things are falling, but they're like bad guys and potions and keys and treasure chests from the game. And it took me maybe 6 rounds of dying during the course of this game to realize you have health and the bad guys have health, but you walk up and you attack them, which is also really weird that you're playing like as a dude in the middle of like, imagine Tetris, but Pac-Man's hanging out in there. Like that's kind of the vibe that's inside of it. And I would go and attack these guys and I'd always be able to beat them, but then I would just die and I couldn't figure out why. And I figured out because I had 5 health and most of the bad guys had like 3 health. So you could always take out one of the dudes, but you were hurt real bad. But if you took out a dude and he was next to similar type dudes, they would all disappear.
Okay.
And then you had potions and you could go and heal up. And once you freaking figure that out, then it's like, okay, I get this. I got to kill the bad guys. I got to try to do it in patterns. I got to heal up. Cool, I get this. And then keys start dropping and treasure chests start showing up. And you have to go and try to figure that thing out. So the weirdest thing about this, and I love Shovel Knight. I'm 99% sure that we've talked about it on the show before.
Oh yeah.
But this is a puzzle game that didn't really need to be Shovel Knighty. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you could have made it anything. But at the same time, like yacht clubs, they're known for Shovel Knight. And it's a way to pull people into what was actually a really fun puzzle game that I've never really seen a puzzle game like that before. And if that was all they did, that would be interesting. But then they made another game.
Yeah.
And that one was, I don't know if we've ever talked about it on the show, but there's the Steam World universe of games. So there's Steam World Dig and Quest and Heist and all that. So this is called Shovel Knight Dig. And it's exactly like Steam World Dig. There are little nuances and stuff. But it is, I mean, on one side, like, he's Shovel Knight. There should be a digging game about this guy. It's the first word in the name. But he can dig down just like the robot does in SteamWorld Dig. But there's an urgency behind it that is very unlike. There's this one level in Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo where there's like a whole bunch of the bricks and you can do the spinny thing to like dig down into it. It's that. And really fast and bad guys coming at you all the time and this like weird kind of urgency behind it. But again, like very non-Shovel Knight with the brand laid on it. But they are really quality games. They were super, super interesting. And neither of these things were on my freaking radar. Like, I got my King of Cards and was like, cool. That's it from them for a while, I guess. Like, you kind of imagine it's going to be a couple of years.
Yeah.
But that was it. I think King of Cards came out in December. And it's like March. And they're like, yeah, we got 2 new games. Don't worry about it.
By the way,
Yeah.
we could have rested on our laurels and probably just lived off the success of Shovel Knight for the rest of our career.
But also, we've been making the one game for 6 years.
Yeah.
Maybe people are ready for another one.
Because last year they had Showdown.
Right. Which was also included in the treasure trove. Like, if you bought Shovel Knight for $15 in 2014, it's $40 now. Like, but if you bought it then, they would just, like, keep giving you these updates for free.
Which is
insane.
Insane in a good way.
I'm happy that they're giving us new games. But it is so weird. And they had released another game, and its name escapes me, but we played it in PAX last year. It was like a ninja game.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Yep. I can't recall what it was called, but...
All these details might be wrong, but you're basically a ninja cop, and it plays very like Ninja Gaiden. Like cyber tech, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like there was a weird energy around that game, and so I'm kind of excited that they're playing these other things, too.
What's the platform for the 2 that you mentioned?
All of them.
Okay.
I think that they're putting out with everything. The one thing that I did notice, at least for the puzzle game, is that they're working with another company that makes... I went on their website. I'm like, oh, let me learn about these folks. And they have a website that has like 80 games on it. Like tons and tons of games. And you can tell, like, aesthetically it's Shovel Knight, but the graphics are a little bit different. The quality, the size of the figure on the screen, they're all a little bit different. But both were super fun to play. They're just also very... Yeah, don't think that you're going to get Shovel Knight when you play these games, but I think that you should think that you're getting Yacht Club Games quality when you play them, which is interesting and different. But yeah, so I got to hang out with Shovel Knight people, which I've done before. I did it right when they were releasing Plague of Shadows as well.
I remember when you went to their booth, like it was like one of the first years you went to PAX with us.
Beeline.
Yep.
Like that was the thing that I wanted to do, and I just dove into it. And then, do you mind if I do another one?
Do it.
Jump in. So the other thing that I really got to hit during that time is I got to play the new Shantae game, which is a Metroidvania platformer that I have long loved since I played the second one. It came out on the DSi, but the first one came out on Game Boy Color. And like the tragedy of Shantae is that it constantly was getting released on dying platforms.
Oh.
So like it came out on the Game Boy Color one, and if you look this game up on the Game Boy Color, it's beautiful, like for Game Boy Color graphics. Like there are times where like you can move into different parts of the town and it's somewhat 3-dimensional on a Game Boy Color. Unbelievable. And has this transformation mechanic and all of that stuff. I had never heard of that one. It just completely missed my radar. And then when they were making a game for the DS, but by the time they were about to release it, it was very clear that Nintendo was ready to produce the 3DS. And they're like, oh my gosh, we're going to lose this. But Nintendo decided to go, hey, instead of just jumping right in, we had the DS Lite, which was an amazing success. And so then we made the DSi, which was the first downloadable media portable content that they had. So you could download games onto it. And I mean, this kind of saved the way forward, which was the studio. They were like, cool, we can actually still release this game. And it got huge underground support, and so they made a third one. So the second one was called Risky's Revenge. The third one, I can't remember, but the games are really cool and they have these really fun mechanics. But then they ended up kickstarting a fourth game, which brought it into the HD world, and this game is the fifth game. And again, this was a game that I didn't realize it had been so long, but I had kickstarted the fourth game, which was called Half Genie Hero. And I loved it. It's beautiful. It has all the same fun mechanics, but it's way freaking harder than the first 3 games were. And the first 3 games were really hard. Like Castlevania, so it leans more on the Castlevania difficulty side of things than anything.
Okay.
And it has this magic mechanic that goes into it. She can transform into different animals and what have you. and it came out in 2016, but they kept on like dropping these interesting DLC and the difficulty spikes and all of this fun stuff with it. And for whatever reason, it was not on my radar that they were developing the 5th game in the series. More than that, I ended up playing it, like I had the controller in my hand and got to play it in a console form. This game's been out since last year. It came out on the iOS, which is so weird to me.
Yeah.
Like totally off my... And I'm like, wow, this is really well developed. And I even got to like the boss battle in it, and they gave me infinite health, which was really nice because I got destroyed. Shantae games are great because the bosses are puzzles. Like you have to figure out the trick to beating the bad guy. And they're usually like really tall and really cool and stuff like that. And I'm talking to this guy, I have his name somewhere. Christopher... I can't remember. Christopher Shanley. He is the director of publishing for Way Forward. And Way Forward has a really cool history. Hit up the Wikipedia, read the article that is going to go out. I had written a little blurb about them.
OMVpodcast.com.
Way Forward has such a cool and tumultuous publication history, and they have worked so hard to make this stuff engaging and critical. They made a game called Mighty Switch Force, which was a super fun puzzle game. River City Girls, I think is what they have another game that came out basically around the same time as this game. Yeah, River City Girls. Remember River City Ransom? It was like an NES game.
Yeah.
Where...
It's, I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I've heard the name many times, but I can't remember what its play style is.
So they made like, it's the kind of game, in Double Dragon where you could like beat up your partner while you're playing through these sort of games. So, yeah, that's River City Ransom, except when you like punch bad guys, they yell barf and they fall to the ground.
Nice.
You can pick up your partner and throw him into people and stuff like that. You collect coins. So they made like a modern version of this, and they're dropping all of these cool things. But I got to talk to Christopher about this stuff. It was really, 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 really cool, like getting this history in that piece. And the game looks beautiful. So if you're into like these puzzle platformer style games, oh my gosh, it was so much fun. And I could not have done that without Media Hour. So thank you guys so much.
Start a podcast, apply for media. It's pretty dope.
Yeah.
I right off the bat I walked in with Kevin. We were chilling in line. Colin followed in later. Colin was the cool guy. He was cool guy Colin. We all went down to the show.
As usual.
He hung out in the hotel.
Yeah. Oh.
And then like an hour later he's like, "All right, I'm on my way." Like he played it pretty cool.
You'd walk in, he'd be like playing Wii Bowling in his right hand and reading a book in the left.
Just really cool.
It's amazing.
Just so cool.
And like Wii Bowling is not topical.
Did a quick once over, like, oh hey, there's the merch booth. The line's already insane, And then I found a booth with open spots because that's what you do, especially on Thursday, which is what I found one of the few times where it actually happens. Early on Thursday, I could just walk up to a game and there's a good chance you might be able to play it, if not immediately, within 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I see a game, had a really big booth, really big setup that I'd never heard of before called Ms. Bits. That's the card right there I'm holding up, showing it to Alex. Ms. Bits, and it was on PC. I'm not a PC gamer. My PC gaming career begins and ends with Unreal Tournament. That's about it. Every other time I've tried a game on PC, I had a computer that would never be able to handle it. It's just dying a slow heat death, and that's the end of that. I'll go back to playing on my PlayStation. So sitting down playing PC games is a little unfamiliar. It's like when you played Dead by Daylight last year on PC.
Oh yeah.
It's like how do this?
I can do it on my controller.
If you give me a controller right now, it'd be great.
How crouch?
Yep.
It took it easy on us.
There's a lot of keys you can press to crouch.
There
Which
are
one?
many.
Is it control?
Many keys.
Alt?
Is it C? It wasn't C.
No. It was X.
So, son of a bitch. So Ms. Bits was a neat like a battle arena type game where it was me and they had a big setup. So it was like 12 to 15 people, like all on PCs, and the game is very simple. Everyone starts out as a head. You're a head on the ground, and you can roll around, and you can do like a basic like dash attack. And there are bodies all over the place. Some bodies are in the form of like RC cars. Some bodies are in the form of like teddy bears without a head, or like little robot dudes. And when you find a body, you can attach your head to it, and now you're kind of like powered up in a way. So then you can like attack people, and you can pick up weapons on the ground. If one was a giant pickle, you pick up the pickle, and you just start waving it furiously, trying to hit people. You can also like dash, and the controls were kind of like it took me a while, like an embarrassing amount of time to get used to the controls. Because even though I'm very fast at typing, when a screen says press E to pick up a body, I have to. Where the fuck is
Look
E?
for E. Yeah.
Yeah. So we play one round and I get smoked. You know, it is what it is. And then the guy was like, "You want to go again?" And I was like, I do.
Thursday is amazing.
Thursday, man. Thursday morning, because there was no one in line. This is a huge booth.
How many players were there
I believe there's at least 15.
at a time? Really?
Yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot of stations, and like,
Okay.
Is it like that battle royale vibe though? Like, is it meant to be, or like a
no,
little less?
Not, it wasn't like last minute, because if you die, you just respawn.
Okay.
I killed myself a bunch of times because like you can set off traps in the stage, kind of like battle bots in a way. It's kind of like battle bots.
Oh man.
It's like traps in the stage, and like I'd fall through and be, oh shit, I died. But then you just respawn. But there was no one in line behind me because again, the show opened at 10 on Thursday. This is maybe 10:15. And so no one in line behind me, and the guy was like, "You guys want to go again?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, dude, let's go again." Won the second round.
Yeah. Oh.
And it felt, I was like, oh, okay, so I'm a pro gamer now. That's what happened. Because I was doing well the entire match. I finally got the thing. It turns out you have like a super. So I was using the super, and I was ripping heads. Because we all started heads.
Yeah.
And then like there was like 10 seconds left of the round. Like it got down to like 2 or 3 seconds, and I supered and I just killed like one last guy, and it put me in first place. I am going to forever chase that high of winning first place against like 15 other strangers in a game that none of us have ever played before. At my favorite convention in the world.
Is like your stereotypical move to like attack people at the last minute to obtain your victory?
Say that again.
Is your stereotypical move when you're playing like a big game with a lot of people to attack somebody at the last minute in order to achieve victory, even though everybody else loses?
Are we talking about Fall Guys now? Because we can.
Are we talking about Fall
Guys?
Guys?
Because we're talking. I don't know. I can't remember
I have a question.
Yes.
What body did you win with?
That's fair.
I won with an RC car.
Okay.
I for most of the match I was in a teddy bear body, which you can do like a spin attack,
so you can switch,
and his arms. Yeah, you can jump off the body, or when you die, you get like people can steal your body.
Okay.
Like, oh, you were knocked off, and now you're just a rolling head again. But the one that I won, I was in like an RC car, and like your attack was like he kind of just like wheelies and slams down a little bit,
like wheelie stomps.
Yeah, and I supered, so I was a giant version of this car, and I was just spamming attack. And a lot of people happened to get right in my way. We'll talk about that in a minute. Joe was hitting me with very much deserved passive aggression, but we're gonna get to that because we're kind of structuring this episode. I said kind of again. Is that my new thing? We're structuring this episode in a video game format, and then we're gonna talk about some panels, and then we're gonna talk about some board games. So depending on what you're into, you can skip around if you want. I highly recommend you listen to this whole thing because we're gonna talk about some real baller ass stuff today. And Mizbits was the first one that I played. I had a lot of fun. The devs were cool. I actually entered a raffle.
You gave your information away?
I gave my info.
Wow, that's rare.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I gave him like my OMV email, which is just already just obliterated on mailing lists.
Nobody checks that. Do you?
I check it.
Okay, never mind.
I look at mine all the time.
I mean, Alex, he
I actually talk to people.
To people.
Set things up.
Yeah. So
get to about 400 episodes of a pretty successful podcast.
It is 8 years. And
There's only 150 or so guests to be in contact with.
Damn. So Mizbits, that was a fun game. There was a Steam key. I don't know if it's like a thing. Oh, coming 2020. I actually got the day after PAX, or like 2 days after PAX, I got an email from like a third party. What's the word I'm looking for? Not publisher, but like a hype
PR.
company. PR. That's what it is. They hype people, and it was like Mizbits early release coming to Steam, and I was like, oh hey, I've played that. So that was a fun game. I recommend checking it out if you're looking for it. It was a fun little party game. It's not something that I'm going to like try to take up competitively. I'm just not like, oh, I got to boot up for Mizbits tonight.
You're going to quit while you're on top?
That too. retire when I'm
strong.
number one. Exactly.
Yeah.
No one... I'm unbeaten in game 2s of Mizbits. You can't touch me.
Obviously.
As far as other video games... We're gonna talk about Fall Guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, Fall Guys.
Wait. I feel like this closes out video games. So can I throw another one out before we get to Fall Guys? Or
Yes. Yeah.
All right, because Fall Guys is
Fall Guys is a legendary story that will never die.
It will never,
for many reasons.
unlike some people on this podcast because of the
We'll get
betrayal
there.
of their friends. All right. This is a really quick one. It's a game that's already out, so I don't want to try to sell people on the concept because you can go and pick it out. So there's a game that came out and it's called A Dual Hand Disaster Track Her. It also has a subtitle that goes along with
That
it.
wasn't the subtitle?
That wasn't the entire thing. So underneath that, it is a split-screen single-player twin stick risk 'em up.
So that's all intentional.
That's all.
Like,
That's all intentional.
has-
Yeah, it's
yeah.
getting in your face. It has this kind of thing. And for me, like I play things a little close to the chest, where it's like you have to. I will play any board game when I go to PAX, but video games you kind of have to sell me a little bit. Like you got to walk me in. You have to convince me. Board games you got to dig in order to understand. Like when we played. Oh my gosh, what was the 15 minutes and then we all die game?
We're Doomed?
We're Doomed.
Oh yeah.
Like We're Doomed was like, I don't know what I thought of it, and then we played it and it was like, this is a beautiful piece of whatever. But with video games you really got to sell me hard. This a dual hand disaster tracker blah blah blah. This was a game that flagged down for me for one reason and one reason only. And JR and I have talked about this before. It was on the Switch. And that's sometimes just enough to let me go. Like, even when the guy was like, hey, do you want to play this game? And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, here's the controller. And it was a Switch. And I'm like, all right, I'll give you 5 minutes. No problem.
Yep.
And so the concept of this game is that the screen is split in half vertically. And on the left side of the screen, imagine a beautiful version of the game Space Invaders. And on the right side of the screen, imagine a beautiful, like neon world, beautiful blowing up thing version of Pac-Man. And you are playing both of these games at the same time.
Okay.
On the
My head
left
already
side.
hurts.
Well, yeah. Oh, don't worry. Like this game, here's the thing. I don't want to talk about it a lot because don't freaking just look up a video of this game.
Right.
Like it's pointless to play this. So on the left side, you're playing Space Invaders. Your ship's basically invincible, but the only way for you to get resources is to blow stuff up on that side. And on the right side, so you're invincible on the left side. On the right side, you cannot attack at all, and you are completely vulnerable. But you can go around and collect resources to make it so that the ship on the left side can keep going. None of this freaking matters. It was so much fun to play this game. That's it. It's already out on the Switch. I'm doing a 2020 no new video game sort of like blah, blah, blah. If I wasn't doing that, I would have picked up this game right away. It was really cool, really unique. I recommend pulling up a trailer just to see what it's like because it's very pretty and very cool. But yeah. That is a dual hand disaster track her. And then in parentheses, a whole bunch of other things. But I got to talk to the guy that created it. It's been in development for 6 years, and it was really fun and cool. So.
Have you ever seen some of the Japanese games where it's like when you fly the plane and it's a top down?
Like 1941?
Yeah. But they're completely insane.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Unbelievable.
like bullet hell. Like
Yes,
shoot 'em
I
ups
think
like
so.
that? Yeah.
There was one I saw where it's like some bullets were white and some bullets were black, and you could flip the screen negative.
Ikaruga.
Yeah, Maddox did an
Ikaruga.
article about that.
Is that what it was?
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dreamcast / GameCube style game, Ikaruga, so much fun, but you have to change the polarity.
Yeah.
Because there are so many bullets on the screen.
Right.
You can't avoid them all.
Yeah.
You just have to hope to be the color of the ones that aren't going to kill you right now. Yeah.
And just like the thought process to go into and like try and you can't watch your guy.
No.
You have to watch the entire screen
Right.
and like be able to track it without looking right at it.
Well, here's the thing. This ties to the Switch piece where the guy, I was playing it on this screen and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't keep track of these two things. And he goes, it's one of the reasons we developed it on the Switch because you have a screen that you can see the entirety of while you're playing it. And it is, he goes, this is a game, the only Switch game I know that's easier to play handheld. Like, because you can see everything that's going on at the same time. Whereas I would be like playing it on the right side of the screen and he's like, hey, on the left side, you just let 6 guys get past you. And I'm like, I did. Yeah.
How big were the screens that were in front of you?
I don't, I should have been
big
able
enough.
to.
Like 50-incher?
It was too much for me to pay attention to. That's what I'll say.
Okay.
But like you literally, so your invincible ship, sometimes a valid thing to do is just to throw your ship in the way of bad guys because you're invincible.
Right.
And they'll just keep bouncing off of you. And then like when eventually you have time to pay attention to them, you can start shooting them again. It was really cool, very pretty. There was a game that came out, gosh, maybe 15 years ago called Geometry Wars, and it reminded me of that. Very pretty, interesting, sort of arcadey, and very score grabbing. So like JR and I have talked about this with Resident Evil 4 and the mercenary missions. and I was obsessed with getting high scores. It's a high score fuel game, but I don't want to talk about it anymore because just go look up a trailer of it. My explanation means absolutely nothing.
Yes.
So
yes, it's one of those. It's you get it when you see it.
yeah. And we played a lot of games. So I wrote about some of the other ones that are on there. There was a cool rabbit game that we played.
Radical Rabbit Stew.
Oh my gosh.
I as much as I want to touch on that, I know you wrote about it.
I wrote about it. Check it out. And then there was also a VR game I played called Area Man Lives. The only reason I don't want to dig into it, it was a VR game, but it was developed by a bunch of theater people. It was really charming. You basically play as a radio, like a radio DJ, and you can't really do a lot of things because you're stuck in your booth. But there is an area man, like Florida man, Connecticut man, whatever. Yeah, there's an area man who thinks that you're sending him messages in like the stuff that you're doing. And so you can control the world around you based off of what you change about it. It's very preliminary, so I don't want to dig into it, but it was so flippin' funny. And I recommend checking it out, but no reason to deep dive into it right now.
So I'm going to hijack. And we're going to talk about a game called Fall Guys, which in and of itself was a cool game.
So cool.
It is the longest, I believe, I've ever waited in line, aside from VR, to play a game at PAX. Typically, if there is a line that's going to take me more than a half hour, not interested.
Right.
I'm moving on to something else.
There's other things to do.
Yes, there's so much, which again goes back to my argument. If you're saying PAX is boring, you're doing it wrong. But that's for another day. So Fall Guys, it had a real big thing. And it looked like Gang Beasts, which is what originally caught my attention. I can't remember if you've ever seen Gang Beasts. It's like the really loose people, and you just kind of slap each other around.
They look like they're made of Play-Doh.
Yeah.
The controls are wonky. It's like QWOP, like where you can,
Okay.
It's like that, but you have to fight each other and throw each other off of bridges and elevators and stuff.
It's insane. It's a party game.
Yeah.
So this game is like Gang Beasts mixed with Fortnite in a way, mixed with
Most Extreme Elimination Challenge.
Yes.
Do you remember MXC?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh.
I have a friend who was on that.
Nope.
no we're gonna talk.
That's another episode.
The creator of Zen Yoga, Aaron Hopes.
Oh
Get
my
out.
god.
Yeah, he lived in Japan for years and years. He lives in Maine now.
If you look at what the game is, it's basically MXC. So
you start out, you make your character, and they're all like little oblong dudes. Like mine was a pirate guy. So we're watching these guys play, and it was everyone was playing the same demo, obviously, but only 8 people could play at a time, and we were in a line of like
20.
I'd say it was much more than that. I was probably gonna say like 75-ish.
Oh, you're right. We did move through them pretty quick though.
Yeah,
like it was, but we waited for like an hour.
But each round, so you start out with 100 people. So like Fortnite, it's like a battle royale. The first round that we played was doors. So like,
do you remember when you're running through MXC and they have 3 doors and you have to jump through the door, but sometimes it's not a door.
Either one's wood or one has like a dude behind it. Or something.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just a wall. And so the way this game was built is that it starts off, there's like a bunch of doors you can go through, and like half of them are doors you can actually pop through, and then it keeps narrowing down more and more and more and more. And so you end up taking your beautiful little Game Beast floppy dude and jumping them just smack dab into walls that are not going to give away.
Yep.
And everyone's rushing around you. So it's like that version of MXC.
There's collision.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you don't just go through other people. Like, you collide.
You bump.
You can't get by people, and you're all struggling to get through this door.
Gosh, it's Fortnite MXC, and it's so funny. And so we get through that first round, which is pretty easy to win because there's 8...
I have a structure.
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm going to hijack the main story.
Yeah.
So Joe and I watched this one guy for the first round to get a view and the gist of what was going on. So the first round was the door round. Essentially, it's almost impossible to lose that because it's 8 people and 92 bots because the game's not out yet.
Right.
There's not 100 people playing.
Yeah.
And so to lose the first round...
Are we talking about Gris?
Yeah.
Our boy?
To lose the first round, you'd have to actively try. So
lose?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You'd have to let 92 computer people ahead of you.
Oh, right.
Like, it's very difficult. Like, I would have been... I don't think I ever saw anyone lose in the first round in the 8-player
And
setup.
a child played it one time while we watched. Yeah.
Yep. So we're watching this one guy, and like I believe it's put out by Devolver, the studio. So all the characters' names that you could play as were named after Devolver games.
Okay.
So we're watching this one guy. He was playing as Gris, which is a unbelievably good Devolver game. I think I've talked about it on the show. I can't remember. I played it in San Antonio last year.
Played it on the Switch, right?
Yes. Yep.
You pitched it to our guest last time.
Yes, with Blip Sounds.
Yep. Yep.
So amazingly beautiful, like audio driven game. It's great. Also undertones and all that stuff. But he was named Gris, and we were behind him the entire time he was playing, so we were rooting for him.
Uh-huh.
Second round comes up. Second round is all about. So
it's the tails, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Half the people remaining. I think it's 60 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
30 people have a tail, and 30 people don't. Simple. You're in like this big stage. There's bridges and humps, and there's hammers.
It's
swinging.
built like a battle Mario Kart level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's objective, like you said, hammers swinging around to knock you out.
Okay.
So, yeah.
If you don't have a tail, you need to get a tail.
Uh-huh.
If you have a tail, you need to keep your tail. The round is like 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, or something like that. At the end of the thing, if you have a tail, you move on. If you don't, you're out. Sucks. So you can, like, if you walk up to someone and press like R2 or whatever it was, you can steal their tail and you can run away and all that stuff. We're watching Gris. Gris pulls it out. He makes it through to the next round.
Oh, last minute too. Like
yeah,
Gris,
he was. It was stressful. It was stressful.
and
So then
we're invested.
yeah, we were actively rooting and cheering audibly for Gris. I think he was annoyed with us.
And he was 5 feet in front of us. We're like,
It was pretty like I think like the distance between you and me, Alex. So he's playing this game, and then round 3 comes up. It splits people up into teams. I think there's
there's
3 teams. I don't know how many. Was it 15 people on each team?
Yeah,
no, because that would make 45.
Maybe it's 10 on each team.
Maybe, yeah,
Yeah.
I can't remember. So
Yeah, you have reds, yellows, and blues.
Joe, take the
So
the game.
the idea is there's a whole bunch of eggs in the middle of the screen, and each of you have your goals. And so you have to go and try to get as many eggs as you can into your little goal area. But you can also go into other people's goal areas and steal eggs out of them and put them inside of your own. There's gold eggs that are worth even more.
I think it was 10. I think
I feel like that's right.
I can't remember though.
Yeah. Well, 10 people on each team.
Like the gold egg, I think was worth.
Oh
10.
yeah, it was worth 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, worth a whole bunch of points. And so it becomes this sort of clumsy thing. And the 2 teams that have the highest score at the end get to go to the final round.
Uh-huh.
And Gris, if nothing else, like it looked like Gris's team was not going to pull it out.
They were doing real bad.
They were
to
doing
start.
real bad, and then it came through. You could see Gris's moment of realization, like it's just the Michael Jordan of Fall Guys. Like he has this moment of like, wait a minute, what if I can get eggs from other people? And he just starts sniping those gold eggs from people. A moment of genius.
Well,
that
as they're carrying them.
He's
can
going
grab them.
into their pits.
Oh, okay.
He's
right,
going
right.
into their goals and stealing the eggs.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh man. It was a thing of beauty, and Gris manages to make it to this final round.
So the final round comes up. That was really funny. That was Alex's mic. Joe, I want you to also tell the final round too, because I'm gonna steal the last part of it.
Absolutely.
With when we played.
Just cut me, okay? So in the final round, now, you've been playing on teams. It's been this 50-50 and then with the tail. But this is winner takes all.
Right.
The last few players that are available, there's a huge obstacle course that you have to go up a hill. And there's the
Aggro crag.
Aggro crag. Just Guts International. Like Global Guts. That's what it was. Yeah, it's just Global Guts 101. There's hammers swinging around. There's balls dropping around
There
like
were
boulders and shit.
They're cannons shooting stuff.
Yes, like it is so aggressive. And at the end, there is a floating crown that you have to get to, but you have to dodge through so many things, and you have people knocking you around, and depending on where people go, like if there's almost like a seesaw, but instead of it going up and down, it's like level. And so if so many people push the seesaw one way
It'll
and you're
push
going
off
the
the other
other
side.
way,
Okay.
you can't go through. And so like even then you have to kind of work and then push people around. And if you manage to get to the end, the crown is floating up and then going down and going up and floating. So you have to time your jump. Even at that point, you have to time your jump at the right time to make it work. And then you jump. And as you're like floating through the air, you reach out and you grasp. And in that moment, we see our boy Gris with 6 people flanking him at this last moment, grab onto the crown. And he wins. And we lose our minds. I'm not a Fortnite guy. In those 10 minutes we watched, I understood Battle Royale games.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy's the people's champion. I would lay down my life for Gris at this point. Oh my God. It sounds like I'm being theatrical. JR and I screamed.
It was insane.
It was amazing.
So it eventually comes to our turn. We watch a lot of people do this. I'm starting to psych myself out.
We get it though. Like we understand the strategy of each of the 5 games. Like,
We watched probably five different groups of people go through this game. And so like, we already know that level 1's pretty much a lock. Level 2 is going to be tough and then go on from there. By the way, also Gris, when he did that last thing, he went untouched. He was just a fucking locomotive going up that hill.
There were people behind him, but we knew he had it.
Yeah, he was locked in. Anyways, so Joe and I are next to each other.
Right.
Joe's actually in Gris's seat.
Okay.
And I was in the one
The
to
golden
left.
seat.
The golden seat. He was the golden child. He's the golden man. God, I was trying to go for It's Always Sunny. So it's our turn. We make it through doors. Joe actually won.
I came in first.
Doors.
Indoors.
Nice.
We're just calling it doors. I don't know if that's what it's called, but
It is now.
but Joe
You hear
won.
that, Devolver?
Joe won doors. I came in. I was
Respectable.
I comfortably passed through. And then we get to Tails. Tails are happening. I'm cruising. Like, it's like I was hanging out by one of the hammers, like up on the second level.
Okay.
And like anytime someone came near me, I just dive down a level below, like run underneath, because like you lose sight of yourself, so people couldn't see which way I'm running. And then hang up by a hammer again, because it's tough to get near me. I'm near a giant swinging hammer, and they launch you across the stage.
And that's
And,
just
like-
it. We're playing high level game. Like me, I'm like letting people chase me and jumping over them. Like my tail is untouched. We're playing a whole other level.
It was great, and like it's unbelievable how long. I don't remember how long the rounds were. It was either 2 minutes or like 2.5 minutes.
2 or 3, yeah.
Holy shit, that was the longest 2.5, 3 minutes, whatever of my entire. It was insane. So right toward the end, like 30 seconds left, my tail gets stolen.
No.
I'm freaking the fuck out, if you'll excuse my language. So I'm desperate. I'm chasing the guy who took my tail, but he's gaining distance on me. I realize it is futile.
Right.
Futile. There's literally probably 5 seconds left. 3 seconds left.
Yeah.
And like I see someone getting chased by someone else heading my way. And I'm like, here it is. They come up to me, I snatch it. All the crowd, like, they're like, oh, and, like, they're fucking cheering for me. I'm living it. This is great. And then the round ends. I have a tail, and I see the name above the person that I stole the tail from was Gris. I stole Joe's tail.
Alex is stealing my tail.
No.
With 3 seconds left, not even a chance to redeem myself.
You guys were a team.
No, even more than
supposed
that. I'm going to take you back 5 minutes in time, because I looked at JR and I go, it's not important to me that I
should
win
have set this up. Yep.
I looked at him and I go, if we get down to eggs, I'm going to be bringing eggs over to your section. Like, you're going to win. Like, I'm going to give you this. Like, that's absolutely fine.
Joe was
going to
sabotage in hopes that he got second place.
Huh.
Because like the top 2 teams in eggs moves on.
Yeah.
As long as he didn't get last place, like third.
But I wanted to make sure JR's team carried.
But
And
it
that was
turns
the
out
plan. We have been fucking again, language. We have been fucking strategizing this for this 45-minute line. And I'm like, dude, we go way back. We go back to 11th grade. We used to trade Pokemon over link cables, all right?
Yep.
We go so far back. I'm going to make sure you get this.
It was
because I believe in you in that last run. I know you can grab that crown. I'm cool if I'm not there because I believe in you that much.
Turns out the people weren't cheering for me when I grabbed the tail. They were it was
They were
because there was
mourning.
3 seconds left and Joe lost his.
Right.
They weren't. I was the baddie.
Vilified.
It was me.
Utterly vilified.
Wow.
It was me. But so then it comes to eggs. We crush eggs. Demolished. My team.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I got confused by the pronoun.
So my
were
team.
you out?
I was out
Joe was out.
because my tail got stolen.
Did you have to like get up and leave and shame, or could you just stay and
I
watch?
No, he
sat there
stayed.
and just fucking. I never saw what happened in eggs because I just stared at JR the entire time, making tisk
Yep.
noises.
It was rough, but I earned it. I deserved it.
And you won eggs.
But eggs comes. Yeah, my team. I believe we won eggs. Like I was. Red team couldn't stop me. I was just stealing their. Like it got to the point where I was just dive into their base, grab an egg, and throw it. And because as long as it wasn't in their base, they didn't get a point.
It was all over.
Because egg.
3
So then
over.
I move on. I'm in the last round. and like which is climbing the hill.
Yeah.
The aggro crag.
Solo.
Mo was alone. Mo was giving us the instructions in her British accent. That's a Guts reference. So the round starts, and I'm like making my guy move, but my guy's not moving. I'm like,
And it's
"What's
hard to
going on?"
tell if he's moving.
Yeah, because
like,
the camera like zoomed out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's happening? I should be playing. Guy comes around. Hey guys, server crashed. We're gonna restart. Everyone's back in for the last round.
Everyone is back in Gris from the grave.
And then Joe and I got wrecked.
We got obliterated. We lost. I lost at a time when I didn't know we could have lost. There was still so much level left.
Yep.
We were minutes away from the crowd.
It was rough. I was getting smacked by everything, but I was like, I'm still in this. And then crown, it's like game over.
I think I just said, "What? What?"
But back from the grave.
Back from the grave. Having said that, how did you feel about Fall Guys?
It was, I'm anticipating there being a lot more because if it was just those same 4 games over and over again, even just watching it, it was like, okay, I'm really anxious to play, but I'm also anxious to move on. I want to do other things. So we've been in line for a while.
Like if there were more levels and it was randomized.
Yeah.
like MXC. Like I want to do the puddle jumpers, like where they run over the stones and stuff like that. Like
Aaron had to ride the spinning surfboard and jump over this. Yeah. Yeah.
Which always seemed so easy.
Oh, it's not.
But yeah, you forget they're on a moving platform.
if Fall Guys has taught me anything, it's not easy.
Yep. It was a really neat game. They had a cool setup, like everybody could watch. Like the line circled the booth with all the stations, so like everyone, like you had an audience. It was a very cool game. I really hope that there's a lot more variety in the games. Obviously, like this is just I don't even know if they're even in beta.
They didn't even have a date.
Yeah,
they were in pre-alpha. That's what it said on the screen.
They were
in
yeah.
pre-alpha.
I don't even have
which
a
is what
business
alpha
card
is.
for it.
And there were so many games in pre-alpha, and I'm like, guys, there's a word for that.
That's alpha.
It's alpha.
But it was a lot of fun, despite the betrayal, the lack of our trust just plummeted. Or rather, Joe's. I can't speak for.
You
for
still
myself.
trust me, and that's a dangerous
It
balance.
is. It is.
But here's the deal: we went out for food afterwards, and you went to tell this story to people, and I didn't even know what story he was telling until like 2 minutes in, and I'm like, "Oh, right, when you betrayed me."
Yeah. Yep.
20 years of friendship thrown away.
Like when I resigned in shame. Parks and Rec. So Fall Guys was a lot of fun. It has that really neat like kind of party aspect. But Joe put it perfectly. It's MXC meets Fortnite.
Meets one more thing. Oh, Game Beast.
Yes. Yep. Just because ridiculous. Like my guy was
So
a pirate
funny.
guy.
You're not accurate. Like you're not. Oh gosh.
It's like I can't remember if this is true, but this is the vision I have in my head. Like when you press forward, does your guy like lurch back?
A little bit, yeah.
Like I feel like it did.
And their arms are always like swaying like haphazardly.
Yep.
and-
It was a really neat game. The crowd was like, and if you won, you got like a foam crown.
It was terrible.
All I wanted was that crown.
So you guys didn't get a crown.
We didn't get a crown.
I'm sorry.
No, almost stole it from a kid.
We did see a kid who didn't win get a crown
Ooh.
Well,
because he lost twice.
it's BS.
Because he lost in Tails, and then his mom, who was also playing, she won. She got through to Tails. She was in the egg game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So then she's like, "Oh, you can take my controller and play the egg game."
This isn't why you're at PAX.
Yeah. And the kid lost in the egg game, and he was really upset. So they gave him a crown anyways.
Mhm.
Ridiculous.
Actually, no. Like you win. You just if you really wanted to give that kid a crown, you freaking win. That's what being a mom is.
This generation, man, I swear, just participation trophies everywhere.
Everywhere.
So, I think that kind of buttons our video game experience.
Was there a lack of footprint?
There were
were there obvious gaps in show floor?
there were welcome, if in my opinion, welcome alleys
Yes.
of space.
Not cluster.
Yeah, like
Okay.
I mean, the program. I should have brought the program. The program still had Nintendo on the map. For by the way, we're referencing
Sony.
Excuse me. Yes,
Yeah.
Sony. Nintendo had a unbelievable booth, made headlines everywhere.
Can we talk about how Isabelle and Tom Nook from Animal Crossing and Pikachu all made appearances?
Yep.
And like were around.
Hmm.
Oh, they were so good.
But yes, Sony pulled out of PAX, citing concerns over coronavirus. They were bringing a lot of employees from overseas, where epidemic. Well, what's
Yeah.
what say you? So I believe they had 2 large booth spaces that had to be reconfigured, and they did.
Mm-hmm.
They released the new map like the week before. Excuse me. But there definitely was space,
Mm-hmm.
which I was fine with. I know there are a lot of people who are upset when AAA games pull out. I get it. They're really excited.
Did you see the mayor of Boston actually wrote?
He like urged them to
he wrote to the
reconsider.
president of Sony asking them like, hey, things are okay, urging them to reconsider. And no disrespect to Sony in my opinion too. Like, you're taking care of your employees. It's hard for me to be really mad at you about that.
Yep.
But that is a rough loss.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and Last of Us was supposed to be showing. Like, they were like Naughty Dog.
It was going to be
withdrew.
the first time the playable demo of Last of Us 2 was going to be available.
Yeah. So it was a big loss. It was.
It's not that big a loss.
Shut your mouth.
Oh my god.
So
See, I was really excited. Did you see the new TV show, Alex? They're making a Last of Us TV show. They actually made a version of it that you can play now, which is really exciting.
I can press play.
You can press play. It's perfect.
Thank you, Joe. That
I
was
was
good.
so
Dude, I even brought this up just to set up that joke.
there was definitely a
Kudos. Good job.
Appreciate it.
Oh man, I'm so uncomfortable.
Respect.
I'm glad my friends can take burns better than I can.
A gentle ribbing.
But there was a lot more space than in previous years, and like I was saying, I was expecting to see Reddit explode with, PAX has changed. I don't think I'm gonna go back. No, because Microsoft wasn't there either.
Right.
I don't think they're even planning on going this year. Because what does Microsoft even have? I mean, I don't have an Xbox, so I'm not really up on the up. I don't know what I'm trying to say with Microsoft games. But a AAA developer pulling out the week before the show is definitely huge.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really mind. I don't really go for the AAA stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I never have. Like, playing Splatoon that one year was cool, but I only did that because of the media hour.
Right.
I never would have gotten in line for that, just because Alex has said, like, there's better stuff to do. Like, I can play the AAA game in 6 months when it comes out anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, maybe I want to play like Fall Guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's in pre-alpha, so it might be a little bit longer. Like, it's just, I didn't mind.
And there was
this space.
genuinely not a thing I couldn't get my hands on Thursday.
Right.
Like, not just for media hour. It was everything was within an hour of your time and significantly less.
Aside from maybe 2 things.
Yeah.
The Isabella pin,
Oh, that's true.
or Isabel.
Isabel.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
You can get an Isabel pin from the Nintendo booth. By the way, I don't want to undersell the Nintendo booth because it was stunning.
You could live there.
It was all over the headlines. The line were crazy. I tried to get a couple pictures of it. I don't know if they had actual water, but it looked they had a stream.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like an Animal Crossing like house and like a tree, and it was gorgeous. But you can get like a special Isabel pin if you registered your whatever to do this thing and then wait in this line. It was really long,
Mm-hmm.
but you got I think it was free.
It was a free pin, yeah.
Free Isabel pin. Gorgeous booth.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Thursday, like, aside from getting the Isabel pin and maybe the Square Enix booth, like Final Fantasy,
Right.
which is always mobbed,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you would have had to wait much longer than an hour like we did for Fall Guys.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're playing like VR, which is a totally different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Before we move on,
Yeah.
Having seen things about Emerald City being canceled and other shows like possibly being canceled or postponed at least, and
SXSW was postponed.
South by
Huge
Southwest.
South by Southwest. Yeah.
The Exploding Kittens convention.
they
It was
had
going to be their first one this year.
Oh,
I
yeah.
Did
can't
they
remember.
cancel?
Yeah, they had to
No
postpone.
way,
they had to
because I
postpone
just got
till
an
next-
email from them like a week ago reminding about the
Yeah.
convention.
They
So-
posted. They had to postpone till next year.
Wow.
a few of the comments I saw, because there's all the naysayers saying like, we'll just have it anyway, we'll be fine, or it's
Yeah.
not that bad, and or it's good that they did this. One of the comments that kept popping up was that PAX East handled it pretty well. And you're like, well, just look at what PAX East did. And I was like, I don't know what PAX East did. How did they handle it?
At least in my limited experience, so like a lot of what I can think of is with the board games, and even with some of the video games, like we weren't shaking hands, but you probably shouldn't shake hands at most conventions anyway. People were being good about washing their hands. A lot of especially the board game people, like they had out the antibacterial
Hand
stuff.
sanitizer was everywhere.
Was everywhere, and I think like a part of it is just that sort of stable, consistent, like people being respectful to each other. I had one of the board game guys like reach over and shake my hand, and I'm like, oh, I'm trying to be careful, and he goes, makes perfect sense to me, and that's all we did. Like, I think a part of it is just keep your hands to yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to
mean,
minimize the seriousness of it, but I think that's where the strength of it came from. People were just really respectful of each other's space, and we also went on light days. Like, it's easier on Thursday to avoid not rubbing into people or touching a controller that 15,000 people have touched before you.
I mean, it's crazy too because I was dousing myself in hand sanitizer and washing my hands every chance I can get all weekend, and I still got sick. It wasn't the big one, but I definitely got a nasty head cold, and I felt like ass for 3 or 4 days. But I'm not sure what people are seeing when they say like, "Oh, PAX handled it well." Like they put out like FYIs, like by the way, this is serious. Consider doing this. But I mean, there was
nothing more than like the cosplay is not consent posters, or
right?
whatever.
I mean, there was like there's the hand sanitizer everywhere and all that stuff, which is great. And then I did at one point see I was coming down an escalator from a panel, and I saw one of the BCEC staff with disinfectant spray bottle and a rag. Spray it in a rag and then hold it on the escalator railing.
Dude, I actually saw this a bunch too, though. So that's interesting. Like, especially in the openings of the day. Like, there were people on every one of the escalators when we were moving in, both days that I came in, doing that.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure if that was PAX saying, "Hey, could you please do this?" or if that's just BCEC etiquette, or their management was saying that. I don't know if I could speak too well to like, oh, the things PAX did, because I did see a ton of people had masks on.
If it wasn't something you're looking for, you're not going to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot of people had masks on, which from what I understand is kind of
doesn't matter.
Ineffective.
if you're sick, it's a great idea.
Right.
If you're not sick, it doesn't do a lot.
Right.
Because if you're sick, it's mainly passed by respiratory droplets, and so hey, it keeps your droplets to yourself.
And like a lot of people were wearing like cloth masks with like, like apparently those are the worst and they do absolutely nothing. Whereas like an actual surgical mask will at least restrain the droplets. Someone posted on the PAX subreddit like, "Oh, hey, here's an FYI on masks and what they do." Like, and they put like a gas mask. They're like, "You will get nothing. You will catch nothing. You will breathe only perfect air."
Okay.
But I
we can move on.
I like to think that they did well, but I don't know what I wasn't looking for it.
Right.
But so far so good, I think.
Yeah.
But so panels. I want to cover panels pretty quick. I did go to a couple. I always try to make it to at least one a day. We were there for 2 days. I made it to 3 different panels, which the panel schedule, the days we were there, wasn't too much to my fancy. The stuff that I would have really enjoyed checking out was on Saturday and Sunday. Obviously, the big shows, like ACK Inc., which I've been watching the VOD of the ACK Inc. show that Mike ran. He did do you guys mind if I spoil?
Please.
I'm spoiling here.
Okay.
So if you don't want ACK Inc. spoilers, he did a Mandalorian themed.
Oh.
It was the Omindalorian. And they were the package, the thing they were trying to acquire, instead of Baby Yoda, it was Baby Jim. And Jim Dark Magic. And I'm also going to sidetrack talking about ACK Inc. Our pal Bob crushed it. He went to the ACK Inc. signing. I debated going. I was like, you know what? My wife got me the ACK Inc. D&D manual for Christmas.
Right.
By the way, we should play D&D soon. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to bring this. I'm going to go to the D&D signing.
Yeah.
See our pal Alyssa, Jeff, all them. Get it signed.
Right.
But I chickened out. I was like, nah, I'm not going to bring it. I don't want to carry stuff around. And I need to do media stuff. So Bob is like, hey, I'm going to that King signing. You want to come with me? I was like, no. And he'd push me. He's like, maybe you should come with me. And I was like, no. And when I say push me, he was like trying to be a good friend. Because he is a good friend. Bob did go to the King signing. And I was like, what, you didn't have anything to sign? You said you didn't have it. I was like, oh, I got something.
It's painful how good of a job he did.
I immediately regretted every decision I ever made in my life. Bob pulls out a box. And I immediately recognized the box. It's a wormwood box.
Box we've been talking about for years.
Okay.
It's a dice vault.
Yeah.
Standard 7, the smaller one, like the one we got the first year.
Yeah.
He got the dice vault signed by everyone right on the wood.
Nice.
And it is gorgeous. I was unbelievably jealous. He killed it. Brilliant idea. And he said he didn't wait in line for like more than like a half hour, 45 minutes.
Crazy.
I was like,
and he loves those guys. Like
He does.
yeah, like that's worth it, not just for the signing, like to get to chill with him for a little bit.
So amazing job, Bob. You are the man. I love you very much.
I can imagine him being like, yeah, I was at this last year and I saw the guy pass out in the front row.
Man, that was rough. That was rough. Right on my feet. You have no idea how hard a body hits when there's nothing to restrain them.
I don't.
I
genuinely don't
know. It is jarring. So I went to a couple panels. I guess technically the first panel I went to was Bob and I went to one late on Thursday, which was the App Junkies Live Worst Games Ever Made. Bob was planning on checking it out, and I went along with him because when I looked at the panelists, there are unfortunately a lot of people who I'm unfamiliar with, but Kate Welch and Chris Straub were listed to be on there, both of C-Team members, and also they do unbelievable things with both Wizards of the Coast, and Chris Straub just did Chainsaw Suit and all that stuff.
Film something.
He Chainsaw Suit like branched out to Film Joy,
That's
so
what it
Mikey
is.
could kind of do his thing.
Yeah.
But they used to do things together. He does Local 58,
Right.
and he also does a lot of webcomics, Star Slip, I believe. Anyways, I really like them, so I figured I'd go check it out with him. I want to go check out a panel anyways because I didn't make it any. Wasn't quite my thing. Neither Chris nor Kate were there. It wasn't addressed either, so I don't know if it was a typo or if they just couldn't make it and I missed out on something. But they were presenting the worst games of PAX. Or at PAX, excuse me. I don't know if games that were actually being displayed at PAX, because that would seem kind of mean.
Yeah.
They were just showing really shitty games.
Was X-Men Danger in one of them?
That board game that we played
Yes.
at Kineticon that one time?
Yeah.
No, it was
okay.
like most of them were mobile games, because you know how like people just crank out mobile games?
Yeah.
And it was interesting because these games were so bad. I can't quite remember the names of any of them or the synopses because they were so terrible. They definitely were not great games. If I paid money for these games, I would be upset. But unfortunately, I don't know if it was the panel room or if it was just the mics or something. They were just, it sounded like mud. I couldn't hear what they were saying. The crowd, everyone else could. They're like, oh, ha, 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 joke, joke, joke. This is great. But I couldn't really hear what they were saying. And Bob and I stuck around for the first maybe half hour of it tops. And then we're like, okay, we're going to go play some VR. Because at this point, the show floor had closed. The line for VR was short. At least it looked that way. Still waited in line for an hour.
It's still pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we played some VR. Not going to go too deep into the VR. It was the same game we played last year. Go back and listen to our recap. We played Starship Captain.
I'm so bad. I think the word bridge is in there somewhere.
Star Bridge. Bridge Command.
Bridge Command. We did it.
So we played that again. We did much better this time. Switched up the roles.
JR's a great
lot
captain.
of fun. Also, man, VR hurts your face when you're slamming your glasses on it.
Or if you don't, all of us had the worst visor face for like the next half hour.
It was brutal. It was
Like I
brutal.
looked over at Bob and went to laugh and I went, "Oh God, does my face look like that too?" And he just burst out laughing.
I had a slight comfort in the fact that when my controllers were handed to me, they were just dripping with hand sanitizer.
They were.
So, but yeah, I went to the App Junkies Live. If you're into, laughing, checking out the ridiculousness of games, it was pretty funny. It said it's their 8th year presenting, so apparently this is something they do every year.
I've never even heard of these guys.
I've heard of App Junkies, but I've never tuned into their stuff.
Right.
So I don't know a whole lot about them. I went to Vicky's panel, our good friend Vicky V Cosplay. She had a panel on Friday, which was cosplay themed, which that's her jam. I have a picture of it. I'm trying to find in my photo. Oh my God, I'm such a terrible. There it is. So she was on a panel called Drafting versus Draping, which was like kind of a tips and tricks for very specific kinds of cosplay creation. She was there with Mink the Satyr as well as Allie, aka
Expletives
and Thread. I was gonna get there. For some reason, I kept thinking of knives. Is it good that when I think of Allie, I think of knives?
Yeah, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Her logo is very stabby. Like it feels
Personality is what she would if you cross her.
Yeah, it feels right.
Absolutely.
They did which while I am not a cosplay person, it was still very informative. They showed how you can literally duct tape someone's body and create a form from this, and then you have a pattern.
You can make the pattern off of the form.
Yes, you know the terms.
Yeah.
And they did it live on Allie, which was very cool to see. They wrapped her in saran wrap so the tape doesn't stick to her. It sticks, and they taped up her whole upper body. Vicky was unbelievably quick.
It's easy if you have two people doing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I had a friend trying to wrap themselves in saran wrap, and they can't get it flat around their torso, so then it just keeps pinching in their armpit, and it looks like garbage.
Yes. Yes.
So have two friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was Mink kind of narrating what they were doing and also asking questions. Allie applying the tape and the saran wrap. Excuse me, Vicky applying the tape and the saran wrap to Allie. Meanwhile, they also had a webcam up on their attached to their laptop, not attached to it, but hooked into their laptop, so they could show up close what they were doing. They displayed it on the big projector board, and it was cool. It was a very neat panel. I forgot to mention the App Junkies thing. Pretty much packed house, hundreds of people in the Albatross Theater.
Wow. Okay.
The one for Vicky, I believe I counted about maybe 175, 200 people. They're in one of the large, very big panel room. It was about half full, even with that many people. But they had a good crowd.
Is it for creating armor or a uniform, or what would you use that kind of technique for?
It's and you're asking someone I don't know shit about.
But it could be either or.
Okay.
So,
but it's usually something that's form shaped.
Yeah.
They also because the draping was more toward I believe you could do armor and stuff like that to it.
So if I want to make a shirt, I can't just hang fabric off my shoulders and then try and pin it and sew it that way.
Okay.
So if I get something that's more form fitting, the tape, once I take it off, that is now my pattern.
Oh, so it's not just armor. You could totally do it just to make form-fitting clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
So you could cut the tape in specific shapes, and now that's the shape you're going to cut your fabric into. So now you know how you're going to sew it together in case it has to be certain sizes. How do you sew a sleeve? Because when it's a circle, then it's got to connect to the shoulder. So
as opposed to just making the T shape of it. You can make T-shirts easy, but basically everything else is impossible. Yeah.
Once you have that shape, if you leave the tape on or if you do the saran wrap thing, you could also plaster Paris them, and now there's your solid form to heat up your foam into. And now you've got your foam body form.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
There was one part, at least this happened 2 or 3 times, where Mink was talking about, and I'm probably butchering what she was actually talking about. I'm kind of making it up here, but when you mentioned shoulder seam, I think she talked about that. And she's like, oh, hey, look at this neat trick. And she does this. She's like, you measure here, make a line here, and then you cut. There's your shoulder seam. And she shows it on the camera. And then, the crowd, there was an audible, oh. And that happened at least 3 times.
When 150 people get something at once. Yeah.
Yep. And now they're like, I'm going to use that. So it was really neat. I think a lot of people got good information from it. It definitely seemed a little more advanced than your typical, here is Worbla.
Yeah.
Here is foam.
Yeah.
You can use a hair dryer to heat it up.
Right.
Vicky has to promote these better because she doesn't.
Called out.
And they had a panel at New York Comic Con. Did we know that until we saw them at New York Comic Con in Artist Alley? Oh, what are you guys doing here? We have a panel. Excuse me? You got a panel in New York? And so because I checked her Insta and I checked her Facebook page, her V cosplay, and none of this was on there.
I will say it is very easy to get lost in the moment. I was going in this year. I was like, I'm gonna live stream on Facebook. I'm gonna on the OMV page and stuff. I'm gonna do all this. I'm gonna be posting on Twitter. I didn't post a damn thing.
So there's a weird. So I'm actually gonna team up with Alex on this one for a second because they changed the way that they describe the panels in the books recently. That they don't really have summaries in them anymore.
It's just the name.
And so I think in the past you could probably get away with that, but it's been a little tough to figure out. We were sitting there going through panels, and it was really hard to figure out what was this even about. They kind of are pushing you to the web.
Yep.
Yeah, or to the app exactly. So it's a little bit of a bummer if you don't know what's up.
That's how I got us our guest. Because
Yeah.
I looked at the webpage.
Yep,
it works.
And unfortunately, didn't get to check out the Blip Sounds panel, but I do hope that it went swimmingly. Hopefully, they made many blips and many sounds.
I believe he was supposed to be an Albatross, unless he said that's what
I think
they
that's
had
what they got
moved.
moved to because
Okay.
Albatross. I think Albatross was one of the ones that got streamed from because it
Mhm.
had like the PAX banner
Mhm.
behind the people. Albatross is where I saw the App Junkies. So I believe that may have been, which is a big theater. So hopefully,
I think Albatross was also where the AI interviewer is.
I'm not sure.
There's
Maybe.
like they have
It's one of their
an
big.
AI robot that could talk
Right.
to people.
It's one of their biggest.
We might be
panelists.
talking to them in the future.
So that was a neat panel. Congratulations to Ali, Vicky, V cosplay, and Mink the Satyr. It was very neat. If you're into cosplay, if you're into learning, I recommend checking that out. Last panel I went to, I wanted to check when I was pretty much right after Vicky's panel, and this is kind of like this is the one that I wanted to check out. I went by myself. I went to not App Junkies. I'm reading my notes. I went to Gatekeeping makes you look like an asshole.
Yeah.
Which is true, which is why I wanted to go to it. It was run by, I believe, six people, and every one of them, not every one of them, 5 of them on the photo that I took of the panelists, 5 of the 6 are listed as doctors.
Whoa.
They were legit. They were like, I actually took some notes because there's something that I might want to look into in the future as a potential guest. They study this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They study, like, they're like, oh, I did my whatever thesis on the effect of video games in the blah blah. Like, this is like, I don't want to say it's their lives, but they've spent a significant.
If this is their research, it's a big part of their professional lives. Then.
Yep.
Yeah.
And some of them work with not necessarily companies, but like programs that help get kids into video games.
So when we talk about gatekeeping, we talk about keeping people out of a community. Typically, is that fair? Like,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think that might be an oversimplification.
It
but-
wasn't so much because, like, when I think gatekeeping, I'm like, oh, if you like Superman, what color were his eyes in issue 38 of Action?
Oh, you're just a girl gamer. Like, you probably don't even know what color Mario's hat is.
Exactly. But they were more along the lines of what you were saying, like keeping someone out of something that they have every right to be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Was this the Games to Grow people?
God, that sounds familiar. Give
they
me a
had,
second.
They had like 6 panels.
It could potentially.
I tried getting to them before the show to chat with, and they were a little busy.
Right.
They got back to me after the show was over. But I think it was Games to Grow. Do a lot with researching how games affect kids and how to be inclusive, and kids that might have some developmental issues, and it's just way to like what games might mean to them and how games could help them adapt and be more social.
See, I love the idea that like the panels, there's a lot of great comedy panels, like, and that's usually what draws my attention. And then you have a lot of great creative panels, like what we were just talking about with like Vicky and Ali and like, Mink, who I'm not familiar with, but like that sort of thing. But the idea of actually talking about like the philosophy of gaming and like the culture that it instills, like that makes me feel a lot more inspired that, hey, are we growing as a community and are we trying to better ourselves and not be reflected in the worst parts of who we are?
Yeah.
Because that's, I've always, and pretty much with all like nerd culture, I've always been a little worried about that, where it's like, hey, there's some ugly parts of us, and it's nice to see people trying to promote and grow the positive parts of it.
I don't see. I pulled up the actual panel on the website. I don't see that reference, that organization that you referenced. One that I did note was, and I probably should have kind of taken this down, but one of the people who was on the panel works with geek therapy training, which is training and credentialing on how to use geek therapy in all professions. So like they teach people how to help like kind of geeks.
So that you don't come across as hello fellow kids.
That do, and like also
you don't beshem them,
so you can understand their problems and
Beshem them.
It was a cool panel. I didn't stick around for the entire thing. I was probably there for 3/4 of it before I had to, because like it was from 3 to 4 on Friday, and that was about the time we're getting ready to check
we were
out.
dragging,
So so I bailed about 3/4 of the way through that, but it was definitely neat. It was people who were a lot smarter than me tackling subjects that are difficult, and I'm glad that there's someone who has like the ability to do that, I guess, in a way, because like I think it's something that's important because gatekeeping definitely exists. I think they even said like, you know, everyone in some way, shape, and form has probably been gate kept, and we've probably all, whether we knew it or not, have done it in some way.
Right.
Which absolutely, I'll be the first person to tell you that I have definitely been an asshole in my past and probably in my future. But it was a cool panel. I really recommend looking over the schedule and like checking out something that maybe, you know what, I'm just going to check. Why not? It was in the Arachnid Theater, which is one of the smaller ones, like down below. It was also like I've never been to that theater before. I don't think I've been to the Arachnid or the Cuttlefish. Or maybe I went to the Cuttlefish last year for the
It's the introvert one.
the introvert one, yes, which they did this year again.
Coco was better.
Yeah, but you get to see new parts of the building and all that stuff. It's I highly recommend checking out panels, and it's also a way to decompress and like
Sit down.
yes, sit down, relax, like look at your phone for a minute while taking in some information. So those are the panels I checked out, and it was good.
Yeah.
So we let's see, we got to talk about board games. So let's just dive right into it. Because we have a lot to talk about,
Yeah.
and not a whole heck of a lot of time. But it's time to talk about board games, which is kind of like it's like the creme de la creme.
Oh yeah, it's weirdly the highlight of the show. Like that, I walked into as a video game convention, and I spend probably 3/4 of my time doing board game stuff. So, can I whip one out?
Whip it.
I'm gonna do a really quick touch base on this one because I didn't know until just before we started recording. But apparently, Alex has already picked up this game and talked about it. And so it's called Cheer Up. It's a really interesting game. It's a party game. I'm not a big fan of party games, but I got to have it demoed by the designer Chris Rio, who interesting dude, like good thoughts behind it, really, really funny guy. But I don't want to talk about it because Alex has already talked about it on the show before. The reason I do want to bring it up is it's basic party game like Cards Against Humanity, but it's actually very funny and has unique rules that change how it goes. But if you've ever played the game before, you possibly have to draw cards in A, B, and C decks, and they are kickstarting a D deck. And it's out. It's gonna go up, or it's already up, and it's gonna run through I think April 1st. And if you're a big fan of that, it's a chance for you to pick up the game. It's available on Amazon, but you can get some secret stuff in there. And so it includes these D cards, but then there's also these mini expansions that include stuff about pets and more offensive stuff. They call it not safe for grandma cards. And that's such an understatement because this stuff is so horrifically filthy. And like, it just, this is a guy, and so if you look at the cover of the game, it's got this really cute dog on it and ends up being really raunchy. And Chris Rio that's him. Like, he seems like a really sweet, sort of smiley guy, and he just drops the most subtle, filthy, nerdy jokes, and they're such good burns. But I want to do a quick shout out. It was a great game. I loved it. I picked it up. But more the shout out for their Kickstarter that expires, or that will go up on April 1st. So I think they're already at like 60 or 70%. So my fingers are crossed for them. I'm backing it.
I picked it up at last year's Kineticon.
Yeah. And you dug it, right? Because those party games are tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
a hard sell.
It was the extra time. It's like, what are you going to do? We've got like some time to kill. And they said, well, come. We saw them and they said, come try this. And then I did. And I was like, now I got to have it.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Yep.
And I had him sign it because I'm kind of a nerd. But it was really cool having it demoed that way. So
yeah, but like now it's signed.
It's signed.
Yeah, mine's not signed.
It's all right. Maybe next time.
I'm jealous.
But yeah, so that was not the first board game I played, but the first one I want to bring because it's a light touch. It's going to be, the link to the Kickstarter is going to be included in the blurb that I wrote. So
I latch on to people at shows. It's just like, I like to wander around alone, but I also love to wander with the friends that I attend the show with. Alex will tell me at New York Comic Con, you can go away.
You don't have to follow me.
You don't have to follow me.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
it's
I was
largely
just gonna say that. I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, dude, I'm just having a good time. And I did a bunch of that at PAX. I did my own wandering, checking out stuff. I waited in line for merch. By the way, god damn, the merch was on point this year. Props to Gavin and the design crew at Penny Arcade, because the merch is
the Letterman jackets.
It slaps. Oh, they were everywhere, dude. Everywhere. I can't swing it, and I wouldn't be able to pull it off, so I went with just the hoodie.
But it's one of my favorite hoodies I've seen.
Yep. Yeah. It's the merch was top tier. But I hung around Joe for most of Thursday, just kind of wandering around, which also means that I'm going to play stuff.
Because Joe's going to play stuff.
Because I'm bad at playing stuff by myself.
Mhm.
See PAX Unplugged recap from 2017. Yes, 2017 was the year I went with my wife. 18 was Colin, and didn't go 19. Yes. Cool. So I played games.
Mhm.
One of the first board games that I played, and Joe's going to help me out with this, we played a relationship game.
Oh, God.
Called Fog of Love.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
And you need to, it's a game, it's a board game where you date.
Mm-hmm.
Date each other, try to establish a relationship.
You like go through the path of a relationship, and they're really good about like same-sex couples, non-binary couples, and things like that. Like there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to that. But it's one of the guys, we had like 3 different people who walked us through how to play the game, which was also a little confusing in how to learn it. But they had such a nice booth set up. They had like little candies for us. We sit across.
Yo, I like
from each other.
OD'd on those candies,
dude. Like little minty chocolate things. It was really, really welcoming.
Tell me it was like a diner booth with milkshake
No.
or something.
No.
It was like very pastel.
Okay.
Oh, it was pastel, like forwards and backwards all over the place. And the guys described it as like an 80 to 90% role playing game.
Mhm.
Like a huge chunk of this is like how you're talking to each other and stuff. But it guides you through your relationship through like a really basic setup portion of it. And then it goes into this deeper level of like how you assign traits to yourself, and then invariably how you actually give those traits to your partner. And so I got to pick things like what my profession was going to be, but then I had to look into JR's beautiful, supple eyes and decide what his name was going to be.
My bedroom eyes.
Your bedroom. You're beautiful. I don't even remember my traits. Do you remember your...
You had strong arms, crazy makeup, and
I remember you had those broad shoulders.
I had broad
that
shoulders.
I just couldn't get enough of.
And then the last one, because you assigned, it was you tell the other like you pick from a deck and then you pick like the top 3.
Okay.
Like my profession was I was a royal heir,
Mm-hmm.
and Joe assigned me. I had bedroom eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I only know this because I took a picture of it. Broad shoulders, and sneakers.
Oh, yeah.
And then you also assign yourself traits that are unknown to your partner.
Okay.
Like when I start dating someone, they might not know that I'm impulsive,
Okay.
or that I'm hypocritical or cynical. Those are the 3 traits that I chose for myself because I figured that might be fun.
And I don't remember all mine, but I was like nurturing.
Yeah.
So this
Yours are
relationship's
really
gonna be
nice.
tough.
Yeah. And the relationship doesn't always end in marriage.
Mm-mm.
Like your relationship could end in and you could be working toward a goal of breaking up. Like if that's your goal, if that's what you want to work toward, you have to like
a hint of oh my gosh, what's the game called where the rules change all the time?
Flux.
Will
When
plays
they're
it.
in flux.
Yeah, no, there's flux. So you realize partially through, like we realized partially through this game, you have a handful of win scenarios for you, and sometimes it's
they didn't
mutual
tell
winning.
us that
Yeah,
until
we got that a little
pretty
late
deep in
into
the
it.
game.
But it is the somewhat like goal part of flux. Like you have these hands, and so as you play through the game, you're losing some of these cards. And yeah, part of it is like maybe you are trying to work towards ending up together, but maybe you're not, depending on like what your traits are and how they play.
And like you'll flip over a card, it's like, you're on a walk in the mountains, and then it'll give you like 3 options. It's like
Push.
exactly.
It's always
yeah. Like, hey, maybe I want to go home. I'm tired.
Uh-huh.
When can I see you again? Or like, and you have to like, the other person has to vote, and you have to try to guess what they're gonna vote. And if you're both matched, then like your relationship kind of
You
improves,
get like points that add up to like what you'll eventually achieve with your goals.
We didn't finish the game. It kind of like fizzled, and we were like, okay, we played it.
Right.
We also, like Joe said, we had 3 different people explaining the rules to us, so it was kind of. I don't think we were playing it totally right. But I had a lot of candy, so that was cool.
That was cool.
It was a neat game. The reviews seemed to be pretty positive, just based on the flavor text that they had all over their booth.
it was kind of a hard sell for me. But if I ever was in a place where like it was a game to demo, it was so much fun to demo.
Yeah,
it
was
really
fun.
was.
You get to name your partner too.
Oh, my beautiful, beautiful Mercutio.
Mercutio. He was Hans.
Nice.
And
Right.
we had the name tags on the rest of the
All
day.
day.
And then afterwards, I put mine on the back of my badge. So when I go through my badge collection in 2020, I'll be able to see Mercutio.
Oh, Mercutio.
Hey, don't worry about it, bud.
Still has it.
I just pulled out my badges. I'll remember that
Hans.
board game forever. So good.
My crazy makeup Hans.
So did you wait for the instructions on that one?
We did 50-50.
Because last time JR had to assign a name, he or was it Colin at Unplugged?
Oh,
where he just
yeah,
like
I
chose a
jumped the
name
gun.
like stupid face. And,
I jumped
and the guy
that
running
gun.
the game is like, okay.
He's like, yeah, you already did that. Cool. Which, by the way, that's shipping soon. The robot one, the
Inhuman
Blade Runner,
Conditions?
Inhuman Conditions.
Oh my
I got the
God.
email last week. They're like, we're shipping, and you should get a notification
The
in a
moment I get a notification on that day, I am planning that evening for
Yep.
people to come over so we can Blade Run each other.
week. Yep. So
I know it's called a Wing Comp.
So we played Fog of Love. That was a neat game. Again, a lot of role playing. So if that's your kind of your thing, and also building relationships. It is. I believe it's 2-player max.
It is 2-player max, and it is fun. But that's got to be what you're looking for.
Yeah.
That role playing side. There's a little bit of guidance. The mechanics are beautiful. Like they do make for fun role playing moments. But
Yeah.
No.
What else
Can I throw one out?
was there? Throw it.
So, dropped by this booth with Kevin. I love because board games are so hard to figure out what they're about unless you start playing them. And so I saw this one, and I'm just a say yes board game guy. I'm like, yep, I'm going to give this a shot. So it was a game that was called Set a Watch. Early on the day on Friday, I had a chance to like walk around, and since not too many people were there yet, there were 2 tables set up, and one guy was clearly running a demo, and then we saw this other guy, and he was sort of setting things up. Kevin and I look at him and we're like, hey, do you mind if we try this? And he's like, yeah, I guess. And he seemed like he was a little nervous about it or whatever. So he sat down, he introduced himself as Todd, and he starts walking us through this. And it's very clearly a prototype that he's showing us. And as it turns out, Set a Watch is a game that he had already released in conjunction with a Philadelphia gaming group. He worked on it with a guy named Chris, but the guy that we were sitting with, Todd, is the guy that made this game.
Okay.
Which is really, really cool. And so the reason he wasn't showing us the original game is that they are going to be kickstarting later this year an expansion of it that plays by itself. The idea of Set a Watch is if you're ever play a D&D type game and you're traveling through and adventuring, there's always the time where you all have to sleep. And with Set a Watch, that's what the game's about. It's about those moments where one person actually gets to rest and stoke the fires, and then the other 3 people are all keeping watch. And it's a co-op game where you fight through battles upon battles of bad guys and stuff like that. The mechanics are interesting, and explaining them will do them absolutely zero justice, and I recognize that. But what we got to do is, so the original game is like your traditional adventuring group. So you have, there's a knight, you can play as a bard, you can play as a ranger, a beastmaster,
wizard in there. Yeah.
wizard in there, exactly, traditional things. And so the version that we learned on was you're playing as a group of mercenaries that are trying to accomplish a lot of the same things, but it adds in different mechanics, and you get to play as these really bad people. So like you're a witch or you're a heretic, and it changes the powers that you have. And you also get like a money mechanic in this because you're mercenaries. You get to buy like additional items and stuff like that. The game itself is cool. If you go on Board Game Geek, it has a weirdly high rating for a game that not a lot of people know about. You can play it single player. You can play it with up to 4 people, but it's always co-op. But the reason that I want to highlight this is that this was one of the best conversations. I had 2 stunning conversations with developers over the course of PAX this year, and this was one of them. I noticed on the prototype cards that the art for each of my abilities matched. And I asked the guy, hey, are you going to like change up the art? Like, why not? And he goes, so a part of this I admit is cost savings, but a part of it is strategy, because I hate when people quarterback in cooperative games. And so when you have your card, people from across cannot see your specific abilities because the font's too small. So they know who you are and they know what you can do, but you're still in control of who you are. And it was this moment where I'm like, oh my God, I'm talking to like a real thoughtful game developer that like, and he's willing to share these really interesting specifics. And that's Cameron and I sat with this guy for a good half hour, 45 minutes playing the game, loving the game. It was a blast. But having those kind of conversations, like that's what PAX is for me. Like really, really in depth. I'm so super excited to play it. We're gonna have a board game night at some point, and I love co-op games. They're always super hard. But even at one point, so you can like read through the deck and like predict like what monsters are going to come or what locations. And I look at them and I'm like, oh, that reminds me of Pandemic. And he goes, that's exactly what it is. Like reading the decks and knowing what's coming, because any bad guys you don't beat as you travel through locations, you keep traveling forward, but those bad guys still exist. And so when you get to the last level, you have an onslaught of every bad guy that you didn't beat. And so like you can't just run away from your problems. They keep chasing you down. So interesting. And it's like that in Pandemic, like, hey, you're not done with this problem yet. Like this problem is just a couple cards down the deck. But I loved it. It was so cool.
I liked the ergonomic design of the box.
Yeah,
that
like,
was nifty.
The board itself unfolds from the box and has places to hide. I know you're flipping through it a little bit, but the cards are like big and like meaty to hold on to.
The fact that like you don't have to open it up and like take everything out, and then you can't set it up because the box is on the table.
Right.
So then you have to move the button, then you can set the thing up, and like because it takes up so much. No, it's like you just all right.
Boom.
We can start now.
Yeah. It was really, really, really satisfying. So, strong recommend. I recommend looking it up. And later on in the year, I think that they said around fall of 2020, they're going to be releasing that. It's quote unquote an expansion, but it plays independently. So if you're interested, you can find Set a Watch, but the expansion, oh gosh, like I was playing as a heretic and a witch, and I had a cat, and I was like, all right, this game's cool, but I really want a freaking cat again. So that kind of stuff. So yeah, that was Set a Watch.
My mic is still muted. The Kickstarter Lounge.
Ooh.
If you have never checked out, or if you just kind of peek in, do yourself a favor. Go do more of it. Kickstarter Lounge is great. I remember like the first year, Alex and I went through the Kickstarter Lounge. It was packed. Remember Cards Against Humanity had an enormous presence there. Alex bought the bigger, blacker box. Like they were just like shoveling out product, because I believe this is at the time when you can only get Cards Against Humanity online, and it was like the hot new thing.
And they always did weird stuff, like you could get a signed card and like stuff like that. Yeah.
Yep. And I just remember it being so packed in there, we kind of just went one through and then we were out, like in and out, in one door, out the other. Whereas in more recent years, it's been kind of literally like in the name, more of a lounge. They have couches, and there's people rotating out every 2 hours demoing new games.
That is the best part, is that if you show up 2 hours later, you're going to see a completely different set of games.
Yes. Yeah. Brilliant. They have some set pieces, but it's relatively small. You can check out our photo album on Facebook. I did take a couple pictures from within the lounge. The lighting is kind of funky because it's lounge aesthetic. So, but they do have really neat setups in there, and they also have really cool games that you might not see elsewhere. Like typically, I think everything in the Kickstarter Lounge is available for demo on the floor, I think. Don't quote me on that, but you may not see it elsewhere. You may not stumble upon it, in your browsing at Target, but we did see some really cool games. We've talked about Jordan Draper at length. Colin and I first experienced Jordan Draper at PAX Unplugged when we played his architecture game. Last year, everyone except me got to do more Jordan Draper stuff. You guys ran laundromats.
Yep.
And oh my gosh, that was the most unexpected pleasure of a game. Like it was like a role playing laundry. We talked about it last year.
Yeah.
So yeah.
This year, I like to watch. I watch a lot, and this year I had a rare thing of FOMO, I guess. It wasn't fear of missing out, but it was, I'm missing out and this sucks. Because
your friends are having fun and you're not.
Yeah. Like I went around to take pictures and like check out the other games, and Colin and Joe sat down with Jordan Draper, who was there demoing his games again. And they played a couple different games. Specifically, I don't know if you want to talk about this one. I don't know if you're planning on talking about it. But it was just called Colors, right?
Colorful,
excuse me. And I came in halfway through one of the games, actually like they were finishing, and then I watched a second game go, and I never even had the game explained to me. I didn't have any rules explained to me at all, And just watching the second go, I got it. And I wanted to play so bad. And I was so bummed I missed out. And then after the second game, like everyone was like, okay, cool, next group of people can play. And I was like, I don't want to play alone. Like without my friends. But Joe has it in his hands right now.
Oh, yeah. So this is a game that was actually originally designed by another individual. I'm going to maul that person's name. I don't even know their gender. So Otani Tadashi. Jordan Draper is prolific, like nobody's business. He has 18 games under his name, and 15 of those are original games. So this falls into one of the other three, where he found a model made by this other game designer, and then he created the artwork, he translated, and he developed it so that it could be appropriate for American audiences. You have a stack of cards that all have different categories on them, and everybody, you can play with up to 6 players for the little box that you get. Everybody has a hand of 15 colors. They're all the same colors. And your goal is to say a single word related to the category that you pull, and you hope that that word is going to inspire everybody to put down the same color. And you go through a couple of rounds of it, and then you reveal what you're going to play. And as Jordan described it, this guy is another one of those like great game developers who shares his insight. He goes, this is a cooperative game where we're all trying to get the same color until one person makes a mistake, and then it's whoever gets the most wins, which I love. But it was, as Jared was describing, I have not had to spend more than 30 seconds teaching anybody how to play this game. It's just you look at it and you play it, and that is the game. It seems straightforward. It seems simple. And it ends up, like much of his games, it makes me think, like Alex, back to the laundromat. Yeah. Like, it's not, that game was never about winning. And this game really isn't about winning either. Like, you could have went and counted scores when we demoed this game earlier before we started recording. But it's like, no, we're laughing and talking about what we did. And that was the entire experience.
Yeah, we played 2 rounds of it.
Yeah.
And we'd never even decide, oh, such and such won. It was just like, oh, yeah, we messed up on that one and that one.
Rapid
Next
fire.
round.
But yeah,
I believe the story is, if I recall from Unplugged, Colin and I didn't get to play with Jordan. We played with the people working his booth. Or actually, we played with each other, and they kind of instructed us. I believe Jordan spent a significant amount of time in Japan, and these are the games that remind him of his time overseas, from what I understand. I could be totally wrong on that, but that's the vibe. That's what I recall. I'll have to go back and listen to my PAX Unplugged recap from 2017, which we gotta get Joe to an Unplugged. It's got to happen.
It's gonna be this year or next. I don't know, but it's got to happen.
It's in November. It's a weird one, but other games. I wanted to talk about the main kind of tabletop game that I had before we run out of time here. It is officially the first time that I can recall in 10 PAXs, right? You said this has been 6.
You've had 7
Easts, 2 Unplugs, and a South.
And
Yes,
South.
10
So that's
PAXs.
10.
The first time I've ever bought a game.
That's so freaking weird.
Isn't that crazy?
JR.
Isn't that crazy?
And I didn't know. Like, I feel filthy when I start like pulling my games out of my bag now.
And like I'm trying to go back and think, but I do believe this is the first time. I could be a filthy liar, but Colin introduced this game to me. He saw it last year at East, and then they were here. They were there this year as well. I've recently become not enamored, but I'm into wrestling right now. Specifically AEW. It's a new wrestling organization. It's the new thing for losers like me who never really, like, they fell out of wrestling a long time ago, just not for them. And Colin brought me over to this game because it's a deck building game. It's called Super Show the Game. It's a deck building game based on wrestling. And it's just neat. You play specific characters. The one that I got, you play the Big Shot or the Rising Sun. They have different attributes. They have different abilities. But it's a deck building card game based on wrestling. Like you can hit someone with a clothesline, and you hit them with your finisher. And then one of the coolest mechanics that I loved about the game. So Colin and I are playing. We're getting a demo from. I asked the gentleman his name because he was so cool to us. But I am terrible with names. I believe it was Mick or Mickey, I think. I had to go through one of their old Kickstarters to find their dev team, and I believe that name sounds the most familiar. So if you happen to be listening to this, I apologize. You were great. But running us through the game, essentially you have to set up moves and then hit a finisher, kind of like wrestling. Colin hits me with his finisher, and then I get a die roll, and I need to roll a certain color on the die, red for my character. I have 3 chances to get it. And I just figured, okay, yeah, 3, that sounds fair. I didn't realize what this mechanic actually was because it's wrestling. So I roll the first time and I don't get it. And the guy running the game, he goes, "Whoa!" and like slaps the table. And like it scared me. But then I got it. And I was like, oh my God, it's wrestling.
Now you got energy.
And I roll the second time and I don't get it. He's 2! And then like if I miss this third roll, Colin wins. I lose.
You get pinned.
I got pinned.
Yeah.
I did not get pinned.
3 count.
I kicked out on that 2 count.
Yeah, you did.
Or rather, like right before the 3. Colin and I start duking it out, hitting each other with finishers left and right. That sounds promiscuous.
Looking over the cards, there's submissions, there's attacks. You could block a submission. You can block that clothesline.
The whole game is about like winning an initial die roll, playing a card, and hoping your opponent can't block that card.
Which is so like combative. Like that is how combat works. Is like you look for an opening, you try to make a move, and you wonder if you get countered or not.
Yep.
Like that's beautiful.
You hope that they've used up their defenses, like or maybe they're tired.
Yeah.
You know, and Colin hit me with I think 4 or 5 finishers like in succession, and I kicked out of all of them. And then I started to get my finishers. Colin's kicking out left and right. I believe the dev that we were with said that, you know, he could just be blowing smoke up our butts, but he said that it was the longest demo game he's ever had, and which was both a blessing and a curse. It's just our luck. Eventually, Colin ran out of cards, and I'm sitting here thinking, that must mean I win.
Right.
I have to win. If he ran out of cards, I still have cards. No. When your opponent runs out of cards, that means they win by count out.
Ooh.
Which in wrestling, you know, if you stay out of the ring for 10 seconds, you could count it out and you lose. Colin, I got counted out. Colin won by count out. I can't imagine how the crowd would react in that kind of situation.
It would have been ugly.
A match that long with that many false finishes.
And a count out.
It's almost like having a tour bus to bring around the country, and we'll call it the Lex Express. And there's a giant flag painted on it, and its only purpose is for his title match with Yokozuna. He's gonna beat him for the championship belt that he took from Hulk Hogan, or was it Bret Hart? I don't remember. But Lex is the new Hulk Hogan because he left the company. He's gonna get it back for America, beat Yokozuna. He's in his match. He hits him with a forearm and knocks him over the top rope, and Yokozuna's too big to get back in the ring in time.
Oh,
Is that what happened?
Because Lex Luger he's got a metal plate.
He's got the
in his
metal
arm.
plate. In
The
the video game,
the Ace Toolbox form shiver.
in one of the video games, when you hit Lex Luger's finisher, it would go ping because there was metal in it apparently.
And Luger's like, he can't do the torture rack on Yokozuna. You
Yep.
kidding me? And Yokozuna gets counted out. And like,
Was that the scripted finish?
and confetti falls, balloons fall from the roof of the place.
Title can't
everyone's
change hands on a count out.
People like
That's
other
true.
wrestlers come out and pick Luger up on their shoulders. He did it. He beat Yokozuna. Yeah, no, he didn't get the belt. He didn't.
Titles can't change. Everyone knows that.
Yeah. Yep. It was a terrible match.
Joe,
It was the worst match. It's a joke.
Super Show. The game was very cool. It is put out by. Wow, I'm so terrible. SRG Universe. Apparently they have Kickstarter. They've had previous Kickstarters. I think they have a new one going right now. But they also have like licenses with other wrestlers, like not the ones that they just made up, like the Big Shot and the Rising Sun and Papa Wheelie. They actually like in their posters they have like Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. I was wearing a Young Bucks shirt while playing this game. I was mildly embarrassed, but some of the people gave me they gave me like props. They're like, "Yo, Young Bucks, that's what's up." I'm a total mark for AEW right now. Mark is a wrestling term. Anyways, so and they even had a bell.
Oh,
Like
nice.
whenever a game ended, it was ding ding ding.
Oh,
and
good.
Colin was declared the champion. They had belts no, we couldn't take the belts, but like they have like
That's a quitter's
leagues
attitude.
across the like across the country where you can play this game. Like, oh, apparently, because we asked, so, like, can you play this game with more than 2 people? And they're like, yeah, you can do triple threat, you can do tag team, and like apparently it's in the instructions. But Colin and I just did a 1-on-1. But there are other organizations that we have people in like Chicago or something. They have tag team belts, and they have the guy we were demoing with is like, I challenged for the championship, and like apparently there's one guy, he's like this is the John Cena of this game. He's super strong. The guy Colin was playing as. Ridiculous.
One on a count out. Was that
Exactly. Classic.
How'd Cena feel about that?
It's not an ace move. That's what I'm saying. So Super Show the game. That was a lot of fun, man. It's just a cool little card game. It probably shouldn't take as long as the time that we played, but it was fun. I like deck building stuff, despite the fact that I have limited experience with it, and I'm bad at them typically because I'm bad at strategy. But it was a cool game, and props to the dev who was with us. Again, I believe it was Mick or Mickey. I thought he said. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Either way, it was a lot of fun. The devs were cool. The whole booth had a lot of energy. Ringing that bell. It's good stuff.
That's awesome. Can I do a quick one that you and I both played?
Yes.
And that'll be my last one for this. I'm going to go into a lot more detail in it regarding the article and things like that. The reason I don't want to talk a lot about it is because it's going to be a Kickstarter game, but it's not yet. It's still in development. They were testing it out. It was this game called Chroma, and it was developed by a team of artists. I believe that they're all at NYU, and they're getting their MFAs, but it was being demoed at the time by Carol Mertz, was one of the developers. She's developed a handful of games, but Chroma is this ultra beautiful, like simple to, again, like learn in under a minute sort of game. There's a light board that's a triangle shape, and there are, much like when you have oh my gosh, you said it when you were describing that Jordan Draper game that you played with Colin at the first PAX.
Architecture.
Yeah.
What's the T word for the little pieces?
Tangrams.
Yeah. I can't say the word.
Tangrams.
There it is. So you get a bag of these translucent tangram-like pieces. They're not that, but they look like it. And they're either going to be red, yellow, or blue. And as you can either play this 2 or 3 players, and you pick so that's a primary color. You pick a secondary color, and that's your color. So I forget what we played as.
God, I don't remember.
I think you were purple.
I was trying to make purple.
Yeah, you were trying to make purple, and let's say I was trying to make
I think you were trying to make red.
I think I was, green or orange.
Yeah.
I think I was trying to make green.
You were trying to make a different color.
I was trying to make a different color. And so what you do is you have this light board, and you lay your initial pieces down, which obviously creates a smattering of colors. But then you put layers on top of it and try to create the most connected of your secondary color. But you're always fighting against the other person because you share at least one color with that person. If I was trying to make green, Jeremy was trying to make purple, then we both have value for blue. And so you end up stealing each other's colors and stuff like that. Like, it is a game that takes you 30 seconds to learn how to play, and you could just see infinite strategy inside of it. And as it turns out, Carol and all of the people were displaying games all over PAX. But like for me, I'm sure the rest of their games are awesome. She actually shared stories about some of her other games that she's put out too. But playing that game and its preliminary feature was so cool and like simple to learn and really exciting. I just had so much fun playing it. So
it was so unexpectedly neat, and apparently it's going to come with the light box.
Oh yeah,
when you get the game. And like when Joe and I were first playing, we were doing a lot of talking with the dev. What was her name again?
Carol.
And we were just kind of arbitrarily, because like, I had no choice. Sometimes I pulled out yellow pieces, which were actually going to help Joe, and like I didn't know what I was doing, so I'll just connect it to
Neither
Joe's
of
thing.
us knew the strategy.
We're just making really big pieces of 2 different colors. And then like once we actually started building and trying to like score points, I was like cursing myself because I got it now. And I was like, oh, why did I do that in the first round? Joe ended up winning
by like 1.
It was close.
It was like 16-17 or something.
It was yeah,
it
but
was
like
real
it got
close.
to the point where I couldn't win no matter what. Like it was, there weren't enough, like I had pieces, but I couldn't make them fit anywhere. And Joe, he cornered me, but it was really neat. It was a really cool game. The dev, the person demoing us there, she was so just enthusiastic, I guess, like because even when we were asking her about like her old game, it's just rad to. I think it's an understated point of PAX is talking to the devs, and I think we talk about this every year. But it's just you have the opportunity to talk with the same exact people who make the thing that you're enjoying, and I think it's really easy to be like, oh yeah, they're cool. Okay, bye. Thanks, bye. It's such an opportunity, and I hope I try to take advantage of it, and even I forget after doing 10 of these.
But then you end up striking up those conversations, and you really hit on. So if you're looking at it, it's called Chroma, which is spelled Kroma. I'll have it written out inside of the article. Definitely worth checking out. And it's being supported right now, I think, officially published by Breaking Games, which you might know because, we hung out with them for like a really long time last year, and we're doomed underneath them. So, they're putting out some really interesting stuff, and you can see them publishing like. I felt like We're Doomed was like such this beautiful finished sort of thing that was instantly fun. Like we fell in love with it very, very quickly. But seeing them like work with these people who are clearly still in their development cycle was really exciting. Like, I wonder if they're hunting down these folks that have these great ideas. And like we said, Carol had a history of developing games before. She had a video game, I think, that was being demoed in the Kickstarter booth as well.
Yep.
So knowing that Breaking Games is trying to put up people like that is really exciting. Yeah.
That's all we're going to cover for this year's, at least during the actual audio portion. We've been going for almost 2 hours now. I can see some sleepy eyes in the room. There's going to be more on the site written up. Joe, I know, has written some amazing stuff. I'm going to try and put down the rest of kind of the thoughts that I had in addition to my usual kind of write-up stuff. But that's going to be it for the audio portion. PAX kicked ass. The merch was on point. The floor, despite the fact that there were vacancies, it was manageable. The games were on point. The devs were on point. It was a lot of fun. Like I've been getting nervous sometimes, because I get really excited for PAX, and I bring it up to my friends like, "Yo, PAX is coming up soon." And I get yeah, hell yeah, dude. And I'm like, are they just saying that? Are they even excited? But no,
it was a good year.
It was one of the best. It's hard to say like best in recent years, just because I say that every year. But I had a great time. I played a shitload of games. I hung out with some of my best friends. I missed you, Alex. Alex was in Chicago at C2E2 at the same exact time.
Yep.
Which we'll probably hear about in the near future. But there's going to be more on the website, omvpodcast.com. Check out the write-up to this episode while you're listening to it, because there's plenty to listen to. We're going to be back next week with a monumental 400th episode, which also happens to be on our 8th anniversary, which is insane.
There might be a third milestone that we'll have to check some numbers.
We'll check.
We'll see.
We'll get there.
We might have to do some pushing.
Yeah, but it's late. Pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna push it.
Yeah.
We're gonna static exit. Push it. I'm officially delirious. So, Joe, man, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. Joe hasn't had dinner. It is almost 10:45 at night on a Monday.
I had a brownie.
Joe hasn't even had dinner. He had a bag of chips and a brownie and a water.
It was pretty good.
And I wouldn't even know. And he looks stunning.
Oh, stop it. You guys, thank you so much. Congratulations on 400 episodes.
We literally couldn't have done it without you.
Well, at least episode 9 or 10, because I was definitely on that one. Yeah, but thank you so much. I'm happy for you guys. You should be super proud.
We are.
We'll get
it's
there.
Just hard for us to show it because we're so humble.
Can I ask,
we're just so humble.
I saw on your website you're doing your top 8 episodes. Is that official out there in the world?
So
yeah, it is.
In total, it's going to be a top 16 because I'm doing 8 and Jar's doing 8.
Cool.
Yup.
Cool.
Yup.
And do you already know what your 8 are going to be for each of you?
Yes.
Okay, good. So now I can say this thing, and it won't change what you're going to say, right?
Right.
God, I really, really hope the one where I delivered the best fuck you ever to Jess when we were talking about Pokemon ends up on there. And I'm not even looking at your expressions. I don't want to know. But God, that F-bomb was solid. It was really, really good.
It was a solid one.
That did make it into the best of for that year, I think.
It should have. It was amazing. I have never been burnt so completely by somebody before. Oh, it was just a beautiful thing. But I'm super excited. Congratulations. All joking aside, congratulations, guys.
Thanks.
Yes, we are. Thank you very much. Very much appreciate that. Again, couldn't have done it without you and our like Colin and Justin and Will and John and Brett, especially Brett.
We'll get deeper into
The
this.
MVP.
So many times.
Yeah, we'll get into it
Eric's.
next week. But like Joe said, we are currently, if you're still listening, man, we are currently doing on Facebook, facebook.com/opinions may vary. I'm probably going to try and also post it on Twitter. It's on Instagram as well. Opinions may vary, all one word. On Twitter, it's OMV Podcast. We are doing our top 8 in no particular order, but it's our 8 favorite each. So I chose 8, Alex chose 8. We're trying to avoid duplicates. There might be 1 or 2, but we have some reserves. But we're doing our favorite episodes, 8, because 8 years, which picking 8 episodes out of 398 of them, very difficult.
Not easy.
Very,
Not
very
easy at
difficult
all.
because we have talked to some incredible people.
You're
over
not
the
even
past
going
8
to count
years.
this one as a possibility. Cool. Okay. No, it's just good to know.
Maybe it's worming its way in,
You already
But,
picked him. You guys said it's fine.
It's true. I've
I'm
already.
good.
This episode was dope, though, Joe. Again, thank you so much. You're
Thank
a
you, guys.
legend, living legend. Special thanks to everyone we talked to at the show, the people at PAX and Penny Arcade for letting us once again cover their show and giving us the opportunity to do so. I am exhausted. Alex, you look exhausted. Joe, go home and eat some chili.
Okay.
We'll be back next week. Until then, I have been JR.
I'm Alex.
I'm Joe.
And this has been episode 399 of Opinions May Vary.